All right, it's spinning and deciding to go live on both of our channels. Jason, we are now live on Facebook and on YouTube. Welcome to another Transportation Talk with Kathy and Jason. It's the holiday season.
It definitely is. It is that time of year, Kathy. But you know what? One of the best presents I get, and I get this every Friday, is to be able to come here. I don't want to sound corny because it's not, because I really do enjoy sitting down here, setting up my studio, and having a good discussion about all things transit. And here we are again. We get a chance to do it. And I wonder, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great, and I'm super excited to be back here with you live and coming from our own personal studios as we come around the bend and get closer and closer to the end of the year. So much has happened over the last
Oh,
year, and
definitely.
it's such an
Yes.
exciting thing to look back. But we're not doing a look back show. We're doing a look
Nope.
forward show. We've got some things that are brewing out here in the Northwest Transportation Options region, and I really am excited to talk to you about it, Jason.
Yeah, I know. This topic, I'll let you, shout that topic off here in just a second, but being able to talk to you about this specific thing is going to be really cool because coming from a mobility manager, I do a lot of travel training with individuals, teach them how to use public transit, but not only just public transit. We teach them how to use various forms of public transit. And the topic we're going to be talking about today here is a good piece to everything. It can connect really well. And I look forward to hearing you kind of give us a little opening and a little intro on exactly what we're going to talk about. But I'm telling you right now, Kathy, it's going to be a lot of fun. But first of all, I want to just tell everybody out there, make sure you're a little extra careful out there on the roads. I don't want to forget about it till the end of the show. There's been a lot of people sliding on our slick roads. Some of them have been frosted over, some have been iced over. We are getting into those temperatures right now, everyone, where just a little bit of moisture on the pavement can create a really dangerous situation. So please be careful out there. Respect the road, especially respect the individuals who choose to do alternate forms of transportation as well, such as biking, rolling, walking, you name it. Just be careful out there as you're moving around. Definitely do not need to be speeding. Should kind of dial that overall speed back a little bit too. Hopefully you've got some good traction tires on and are ready to go. So just be careful out there.
Yes, build some extra time into your schedule so
Absolutely.
there is no reason that you would need to rush.
Yep.
And another important thing, put that phone away.
Put the
Now,
phone away.
especially,
Hmm.
is a great time to remind yourself that you don't need distractions while you're driving. Put that phone away so that you can have 100% of your attention focused on the road so you can get where you're going safely, and so can everybody else around you.
Absolutely. So, Kathy, what is going on with our topic today?
So I am super excited. I know we've mentioned this different times during our shows and it's been a topic of conversation, but I'm really excited to bring up this topic today in the way that we're going to talk about it because it's so close to happening. I'm so excited. We are going to talk about van pools
Woohoo,
and
Vanpools.
why they're important and why am I so super excited about them.
I can tell that you're really super excited about him, Kathy. And Vanpools are, yes, some things that, especially those of us in the industry, we hear about all the time. And sometimes we'll hear about it all the time, but we don't really see much. And I know it's a challenge, right? I mean, it's a challenge to get it going, but it is so important that we talk about it because we want to encourage people to look into starting their own Vanpools. But so, Kathy, I got to ask you a question really quick before you get in, though.
Sure.
What are some of the challenges to starting a Vanpool? Because let's be honest, it's something that requires the effort of a lot of different individuals, correct?
Well, it requires a little bit of effort, yes. And it requires people to kind of get together and on the same page about going to and from work at the same time from
Mm-hmm.
about the same place or along the same route. But one of the challenges that it doesn't include in our area is that nobody has to own a van.
Right.
Nobody has to go out and buy a fancy vehicle to be able to support a van pool.
Well, that's really cool because those vans can be, pretty expensive, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
so when you're looking at a van and you're determining how to start a van pool, contacting individuals and looking at miles and looking at times and destinations and so forth. I do have a little bit of a question here, and we'll do some fancy little bit of camera work here, Kathy, and maybe we can take a look at one of the questions that I had. I put it up here so I don't really miss out on things, but up there in the upper left-hand corner, right? I've got a little van up there. It says Vanpools on it. Yay.
Yay.
You mentioned in there about an ideal distance is about 15 miles or more each way. And by the way, people, we have notes back and forth. So I gathered these off these notes to help make some questions that I have for Kathy, because I'm not an expert on how to start a van pool. I defer to Kathy on that. So in this case, Kathy, what does that exactly mean? And then maybe, off to the side there, it says 4 and up to 15 people per van. I know that for sure, but what does it mean about the miles part?
So it's basically a cost benefit equation that really it becomes most worth it to have a van pool when it's 15 or more miles, because otherwise then it's more, maybe more likely that a carpool would work better or smaller groupings of people. But 15 or more miles and 4 to 15 people getting together in the same vehicle ends up making a big impact, both environmentally and on each person's wallet, because then there's a huge amount of savings. I mentioned that one of the challenges is not that you have to go out and buy a van. And that is because in our area, in Oregon, we're supported by a branch of Enterprise. It's called Commute with Enterprise, and they provide the vans. And they do a whole background check on the people that are going to be driving and do all of those kinds of things, because they do have to protect themselves. But then after they do that, the people that are going to be driving the vans are covered by their insurance, and the maintenance is covered by the cost of your van pool, and all of those things are taken care of. So you no longer have to pay for the expense of owning a vehicle, which is amazing. It's fantastic. Jason, you told me a number a little while ago that it could be an average of, you saw it from AAA. What was that number you saw?
Yeah, I don't know if you can hear me, Kathy, but I can't hear you, but that's okay, because I will go ahead and just continue for whatever reason that has kind of shut down. So I'm pretty good at reading lips, so I'll do the best that I can on that. I don't know if this is exactly where we're going to be going, but I will move right back over here to my question that I have again as well too is, so I get now, the 15 miles or more, I can see and understand that. And I think that's a wonderful way to assess, how to get one of these van pools started and so forth. But you also mentioned, we hear this quite often, we have fixed route buses here at SETD, right? And those fixed route buses, for example, like the 101, has a very predetermined and very scientifically planned route from Astoria basically down to Seaside. And it has several stops in between. So those are very ironclad. They don't change, okay? But in this case, this sounds almost like a fixed route in some ways, but it feels like it's actually a little more, dare I say, flexible. What does it mean to have the word flexible fixed route van pools? What does that mean to us?
Well, a flexible fixed route van pool is a type of public transportation that is open to basically anybody that is on the same route, that's starting in the same general area and ending in the same general area. And the difference between a flexible fixed route and other van pools is that often a van pool will be generated by an employer. So a single employer will start the ball rolling to get their employees to their job site on time, and then that van pool is subsidized by the employer. And that helps those employees get to work, and it's only open to people that work for that employer. So it's not flexible at all, and it still counts as public transit, but it's not public and not flexible as far as who's allowed in the van pool. Now, a flexible fixed route van pool is a perfect question because Columbia County Rider is looking at starting some flexible fixed Vanpools. The reason they're looking at this is because they're having to cut some routes. And they know they have ridership that rides every day on the same routes that they are going to have to cut. And they end up going to Portland to the same general area. Now, a flexible fixed vanpool would work great for those people because they just have to find one person that can qualify to drive this van, and then they basically have their own private ride to Portland. And the way Columbia County Rider is doing it is another reason that it's a flexible fixed route, is they are subsidizing the bus, the Vanpool. They're subsidizing it so that the only cost that the riders have to pay is the same cost as what their bus pass would be for a month. And so all included in that monthly bus pass cost is the maintenance, the upkeep, all of the costs for the van, and they pay their monthly bus pass. And then they agree upon, with that group that they form, starting points and ending points for the bus route, for the flexible Vanpool route.
Wow. Well, thank you very much for that, Kathy. And I do. I think it's just so important, that we focus on all those, very important pieces of information. We're talking about some very important things here regarding Vanpools and regarding, understanding exactly, some of the terminology that goes along with it and what it means to the people out there that we serve, and everything. Mm-hmm. So thank you for that. But I did have another very interesting question too, as well, as we move along here, and I still try to deal with technical difficulties on my end. But as long as you can hear me, that's all that matters, right?
We can hear you, Jason.
But if you look down there in the lower left-hand portion, Kathy, I have yet another question, and it's about something that really I think is one of the most lost subjects that are out there. It just doesn't get talked about a whole lot. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's always in the back of our minds. It's usually something that for you and I who are in the profession, we definitely do hear about it quite a bit. But definitely the individual, the user of the service, does not quite totally understand what it means to say, first and last mile, and definitely, what in the world? How can those Vanpools help us in first last mile transportation? So I was kind of hoping you might be able to riff a little bit on the first last mile as I maybe try to figure out my technical difficulty here, but I'm interested to hear what you have to say, or at the very least read your lips. So knock yourself out on first last mile, Kathy.
All right. Well, as you said, for us transportation geeks, first and last mile is a very frequently and commonly used term. And really, one of the things that happens with first and last mile is that often that first and last mile, which is the mile that it might, or less, that it might take you to get from your home to a bus stop, or from your last bus stop to your work or to wherever you want to go, is what keeps people from being able to use public transportation, which, a mile may not seem like a lot in the big picture, but if you're having to walk it, and you're having to walk it with school books or briefcases or groceries, that ends up being a really long distance. And then you add in, if you might have some sort of mobility challenge, then that ends up being a challenge that you can't overcome to get to a bus stop. You twisted your ankle, you just are not quite as mobile as you used to be. It happens to all of us. All of those things then mean that you are being excluded from being able to use public transportation. So where Vanpools solve that problem is that if the Vanpool is agreeing on a route, especially the ones that are, 4, 5, 6 people, they could potentially actually pick you up at the end of your street, at the end of your block, instead of all the way down to the bus stop. So that takes care of that first mile issue. If you live someplace that isn't super well lit, at the end of the day when you're getting home, maybe the Vanpool drops you off at your doorstep. Those kinds of things can all be agreed upon by the people in the van. So,
yeah, that is really, really cool, Kathy. And as you can tell, I got some headphones on now. and I can actually hear you. So I don't know the issue
You
on my
did really
end.
well. I thought you did amazing with guessing where I was at and what I was saying. And so,
Yeah, I was able to pick out probably every other word, but yeah, I'm glad I can move forward now. So okay, so I get this now. Kathy, what does it cost? I mean, and I asked that question because it sounds like this is such a really cool way to go. Sounds like it's probably the more cost efficient way to go. I want to read something off to you, and I have it back
mm-hmm,
there as well too on the whiteboard. Um, Basically, AAA did a research back in August that showed, if you can look up their upper right hand corner, you can't read it all that much, but the annual cost
mm-hmm.
of new car ownership is roughly over $10,000. In fact, on the little calculator there, it says it's $10,728, which works out to be nearly $900 a month. And, you know, I don't need to rehash all the things that are out there costing us more money. Let's just be fair and just say that it costs more money right now to do the things that we want to do, including some of us who still drive our cars or
Mm-hmm.
trucks or what have you. And so the cost of a van pool, first question that I have is, it sounds like that it's a more cost efficient manner of doing transportation and being able to get to work or to other events that you may be able to plan carpools for. And it does sound like that it's like a shared cost among the users of that van pool. But are there any other things, any other avenues, financial avenues that can help even lower the burden further for individuals using the van pool?
So I kind of addressed a little bit of this earlier about the between the flexible and the employer
Right.
based van pool. So both of those models would include a form of a subsidy, and that subsidy from either the public transit agency or the employer brings down that per person cost. And
Okay.
so that's how that works with the cost sharing type of situation. Now, the van pools aren't always subsidized by employers, and they're not
Sure.
always subsidized by public transit. And they still can be a much more affordable way to get to and from work. So there's a few variables, and part of it is distance that the van pool travels,
Yeah, no kidding.
the type of vehicle that the van pool chooses, and that is based on how many riders you have in the van pool. So,
Sure.
if you have a 9 passenger van and you have 9 people in it, that is going to be your most, cost effective way of using that 9 passenger
Sure.
van. So if you have a 15 passenger van and you have 9 people in it,
Wow.
then it
Hmm.
might be a little bit more expensive.
Sure.
Same thing, if you have only 4 people in a 15 passenger van, you're not being very cost effective. So the great thing about this program that runs through Commute with Enterprise is that they help you match people in the same area. They help develop a route, and they help right size your vehicle so that it can be the most cost effective.
Well, that's really cool.
And the
So
way
being
that Columbia County is going to be setting it up is they're basically saying this is going to be your fixed cost. There's not going to be any variables. They are taking care of the variable factors and just putting those van pools out there because they want that transportation to be available to those riders that are losing their route.
so Kathy, you've always been out there helping people. Always been willing for at least the last so many years that you've been doing this to help educate individuals on van pools, car pools, and so forth and everything. But so your help is great for individuals right here. But are you telling me that this program though offers even more help for people looking to do this, or is this specific to just Columbia County? Or is this a program that can start to spread a little bit?
Oh, this program is available to anybody within the
Wow.
listening range of Northwest transportation options. So, Columbia County, Tillamook County, and Clatsop County residents, employees, employers, this is a program that's available to you. It's
Oh,
actually a
nice.
program that is happening all over Oregon. It's subsidized by, or it's sponsored by ODOT, and which is where my funding for my program and what I do comes from.
Sure.
And it is a fantastic program that is really used widely all over the state.
Awesome. Well, it just is amazing to me. I mean, this is a really great example of it helping a district in Columbia County where they really need it, right? They're going to be
Mhm.
losing certain routes. And so having this van pool there is going to be a great help to individuals who really, really need that transportation. But for individuals over here where maybe we have a little more of a robust fixed route bus system and so forth, this will still give us even further options, even a better option in many cases for individuals to be able to. I mean, if you really think about it, the van pool is a far more flexible transportation option than the bus. And I would look forward to using that in a lot of cases over the fixed route. It just gives me a better control of my mobility for the particular day. So I just think that's really cool that we're going to have that level of help and assistance on top of what you already do for everybody. But so like one thing I do have a little further question on regarding this is fuel. Now, fuel is a part of the cost in the total cost of running a van pool that is shared by everybody, correct?
Yes.
But what do we do if I'm at work, I've just van pooled, okay? And I'm there and I'm being productive, but I hurt myself or I get sick and I need to get home. What do I do?
So each Vanpool has what is called an emergency ride home program. And so that gets worked out in advance with how to then provide that emergency ride home and how that all works. There's, different pieces that can be implemented to make sure that if you, or it doesn't even have to be you that is the cause for the ride home. If you get sick, if you have a child that gets sick and needs to be home, or you need to get home because of that, then an emergency ride home would be provided, and it's all part of that program.
Okay, great. So what you're telling me is when this kicks off, now, is this in action currently right now? Or what are the hurdles? What are the next steps before we can actually, if you and I wanted to, we're looking for excuses to get up and out of town and do some research and stuff, well, we could actually see this in action.
So this is a program that is, the ball is rolling. In Columbia County, they are going to be cutting routes. And so we are currently setting up the opportunity for people to get together and express an interest in a van pool so that we can set up some van pools and get this program going. Their advisory board approved the subsidy so that the cost will be what the monthly pass is. And so all of that is all set up, and now we are just in the process of setting up those van pools. So if you're listening to us in Columbia County, shout out right there to the comments and let us know you're interested, and we will get you together and we will figure out who all could go into the same van and when it goes and when it comes back. And so that is all happening right now.
It's never fun when a transit district loses routes for whatever reason. It's not fun for the district, the people who are serving the community. It's painful. But it's really painful for those individuals who rely on that. So shout out to this program. Shout out to spreading the message, Kathy. I think that's incredibly important that this message gets out to each and every single person who not only is listening to this, but who is affected by these route cuts and so forth. Please contact Columbia County. Please contact them and learn more about what's going on so that when those cuts inevitably do happen, hopefully we'll be able to make that as streamlined as possible for you to be able to utilize that van pool option. And Kathy, I mean, do you think the transition, I mean, every transition has its challenges, but do you think overall, though, it could be fairly seamless for some people?
It could be fairly seamless. And the main goal is that Columbia County is aware that there are a lot of riders that depend upon those buses to get to and from work. And they don't want anybody to lose their employment because there's no bus anymore. And so it's really important that people realize that just because they see Commute with Enterprise and that's a private company, that it's working in conjunction with CC Rider. This is not a competition. They're not taking riders away from CC Rider. CC Rider is helping to pay for this so that they can keep those people transportation in existence for people to get to Portland from Columbia County. It's one of those public-private collaborations that really works well when it is implemented.
So Kathy, we're coming to the end of our show. And
Amazing.
yeah, it's amazing how quickly the show goes, but for this particular topic, that is truly amazing. And it's neat that you and I get to see it kind of start from scratch and build its out to operational standards. And so I can tell you what, I'm hoping we can make sure that we keep this a topic that we talk about from time to time. I hope it's something that individuals, if they're listening to this show, watching this show and so forth, that they have a question. I know that you were intimately involved with how these things are born, how they're planned and so forth, and definitely the wealth of information that you have otherwise. I really hope that anybody who has a question, put it down in our comment section, email Kathy or even myself directly, and we'll do what we have to do to ensure that you're fully aware of what's going on. If we got a travel train, that's what we do. Right. It's a Vanpool. Some people might look at that and say, well, how much travel training is really in the Vanpool? Hey, I don't know. But if there is something that you need help on and you need us to come alongside you to do that, we will. So
absolutely. And so just another thing to keep in mind is that, I've focused a lot on what is actually happening now in Columbia County, but keep in mind, what I said was that this is another form of public transportation. And so if you live in Clatsop or Tillamook counties and there's no bus that services your area, think about this as a potential option. And if 4 to 5 other people that are going the same direction every single day, we'll maybe get together and talk to them about, hey, let's get a Vanpool going. So you asked about Lewis and Clark, Jason.
Yeah.
If you had 4 or 5 people that you wanted to start a Vanpool with and you were all going to the same general area, the same times every day, well, let's do it. This could totally expand the bus routes without an actual bus. So
no doubt.
It's a win-win all the way around.
Hey, anybody out there in Lewis and Clark that I may not have contacted with you earlier on that, if you want to start a Vanpool from there to any general location here in Astoria, Warrenton area, please hit me up, comment down here, send me an email at jason@redthebus.org or give me a call. You should know my number. And we will get in touch with you. And we've got Kathy. She will do whatever it takes, I'm sure, to help make sure that we get together and do a Vanpool correctly and make it beneficial to everybody. Kathy,
absolutely.
Wow. Lots of things that we talked about regarding Vanpools, and I'm really excited to see this moving on in Columbia County and hopefully somewhere here in our own county. So
yes,
thank you.
You're welcome. This has been really fun. We're coming up on those holidays. Everybody take care of yourself. Like Jason said to start out with, slow down and watch out for those other people on the roads. We all want to enjoy this season in the best way possible. Take care of yourselves. Take care of your loved ones. And we'll see you next week right here on Transportation Talk.
See you, everyone. Take care.